Hello, happy Monday, everyone. I hope everybody has had a good day so far. I hope everybody's going into the evening well. Tonight's discussion is going to be on mental health. We had the poll run. I was a little bit late in getting it up. I apologize for that. But it seems to be the topic that everybody, the majority vote for was for mental health. So we'll be having that discussion. For anyone who's new to participating in an open discussion that we have, I do them every Monday night, and it's on a topic that I put a poll up for typically on Friday. Sometimes I'm late and get it up on Saturday, but everybody gets to weigh in on a vote on what you guys want to talk about. And typically these kind of are about more serious stuff, not so much internet stuff, not really commentary, just more along the lines of maybe what you may struggle with daily or personally, or that you may have some experience from, so we can have a place of support and a place of community where we can just openly talk about things and not worry about judgment and things of that nature. So that's what open discussions are. I definitely understand if these are not topics you want to talk about, not participating in these live streams. I definitely understand that. As always, I hope everybody is respectful of each other and keeps that in mind. I always try to offer some kind of resources at the beginning and at the end, depending on what we're talking about. So since we're talking about mental health today, like I always say, if you're in the US, if you need any kind of resources for you, you can call United Way, which is *211 from any phone. That will get you to your local resources. You can talk to the operator about what it is you need help with, and they can direct you further. There's always free counseling services and things like that available in almost every area. It's just a matter of finding those resources. I also always offer in these, if you are unable to find resources and you're comfortable enough to provide me in private your general location, I will go and do the research for you and help you find resources that way. I never talk about who I do that for, but I do it often, and there's no strings attached. I don't expect anything out of it, but if you're struggling and you need some resources and you're just stuck, you don't want to call 211, you're uncomfortable calling 211, or you only need help in a specific area, always feel free to reach out to me, whether that's email or DM. I try to list all of my contacts in the description box, so if you ever feel the need to do that, that is there. I am going to go ahead, since I've kind of done the rundown of what to expect, I'm going to see who all is here and talk to everybody, and then we can go ahead and get started for the discussion. Hey, Leanne, good to see you. Hey, Jean. Hey, Cheryl, Elizabeth, Claire, Christophan, always good to see you. Bob and Carrie Kennedy, hello. Hey, D. Ash. Hey, Dana. Hey, Beauty Demon. Hey, Sierra. Hey, Melody, Melissa, Shaylin, Helen, and Carol Lives. Carol Lives, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, let me know. So let's see here. Yeah, so tonight, Jean, I think you remembered after the fact, tonight's just open discussion. I have these every Monday night. Buying membership does not make you a mod. Buying membership gets you access to additional content. Each of my membership tiers, it is described under each tier what you get for what you're paying for. You get extra content, you get extra live streams, depending on what kind of tier you go for. But just because you're a member doesn't make you a mod. I have mods who are and aren't members. Mods on my channel are just people who have asked when I've needed moderators. It's good to see everybody. Trying to see if there are any other questions. Hey, Brittany, sorry if I missed you. It's midnight in the UK. It's really late. I would probably be asleep. I finally have fixed my sleeping patterns, so I actually am sleeping at a decent hour now. The eyeshadow that I'm wearing today, I only have a single eyeshadow on tonight, and that is a JD Glow shade, which This is from their Galaxy collection in Fairy Acid. It's the name of the shadow. Hey, Cheryl, good to see you. Hey, Just Us. Hey, Melinda. I hope everybody has had a really good Monday, and that if it was the beginning of your work week, it wasn't too harsh. But Mondays are always kind of harsh for me because it's the start of the work week. I always kind of struggle to get up and get productive, but I did a pretty good job today. I think I got quite a bit done. Productivity can kind of, for me, fall into oftentimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, which can result in me feeling a little bit more anxious. I'm not typically an anxious person, but if I push too many things off because I'm feeling overwhelmed, I do tend to, when I start to try and like get all of these projects done, I will start to feel a little bit more anxious, a little bit of anxiety as I'm working through it and kind of beating myself up over the fact that I maybe had pushed things off longer than I should have, or, you know, there really wasn't a reason for me not to accomplish this on a different day. You know, I always have those kinds of conversations with myself. I appreciate all of the compliments about the eyeshadow. Hey, Dark Magician, how are you? Hey, Andrea. So, I'm not sure in what aspect you guys want to talk about. Typically, if you're new here, I will start the conversation talking about maybe some of my struggles or what I'm dealing with currently or what I've dealt with recently, just to be a place where people can start to talk about it, whether they've felt similar, been in similar situations. Never feel you have to share anything on these lives. If you don't want to share anything about you personally or anything that you have struggled with, please don't feel you have to. That's definitely not necessary. I find it helps a lot when people see others willing to discuss things that as a society isn't really talked about. There's not a whole lot of people who are comfortable with getting on any kind of platform and talking about what they have struggled with or what they're currently struggling with. Currently, you know, I was dealing with quite a bit of depression and just feeling really down and having a lot of hardship on myself when I was coming to the decision to quit my job, and that was bringing its own different kind of set of issues and further depression and things like that. But I have really been working on myself, making sure I'm doing things that are not stressing me out so much. Of course, in life, there's always going to be stressors. That's part of being an adult. It's part of life, I feel like, once you get to a certain age. But not letting so much get to me to where I was to the point where I couldn't function anymore. So I've really worked on that, making sure that I am doing something every day to keep myself motivated. I've started to do quite a bit of positive self-affirmations and things like that. You know, even like the silly sayings like, I know I can do it. I know, you know, just little things like that to help pep my mood up, not make me feel like it's me against the world. And taking on a new endeavor, like starting my own business, does at times feel like I'm taking on way too much. And I've put myself in stressful scenarios by like wanting everything to be perfect before it goes out. But I am coming to the conclusion over the last week and a half that it's going to be to a point that nothing's going to be perfect. And I've really been struggling with that and like allowing it to weigh on me quite a bit, to the point that I've kind of sat myself down and had the conversation with myself that I just need to do it. I need to stop like making sure everything's perfect. I just kind of need to go for it because I'm putting myself in the continual rut, not only with people who want to order stuff, but with myself for even getting everything up and going. Peter Mon's Peterism channel is awesome. It's been a while since I've been able to regularly watch his channel that's like that, but I do like it. He typically does do quite a bit of talk around this kind of stuff and what he struggles with. And I appreciate anybody who has a platform who's willing to talk about these issues and try and bring some kind of education, try to break the stereotype, try to break the stigma. That way people understand, like, this, no one's perfect. Everyone struggles with something at some point in their life. It may not be something that people deal with on a consistent basis, but there are people who do deal with it and do struggle with things like depression, anxiety, and far worse diagnoses daily, where they're constantly having to really work to get through a normal, what is seeming to be a normal day. Hey, Sue. You once told to do my nasties first, or just do stuff. Then when it's done, you feel better. It works so well for me. I mean, and that's kind of another thing. Like, we all kind of have our own way of like dealing with things and making things a little bit easier for us to comprehend and us to put a to-do list in order and feel that we get done what we have to get done. I think everybody has their own kind of system that way, and whatever your system looks like shouldn't really be judged by anyone else. I don't feel like that's fair to judge anybody. The thing that gets you the most is just go outside and get some fresh air. Yeah. And Brittany, I think a lot of those kind of comments are coming from people who haven't really dealt with it long term. And I've been transparent in saying, like, I have spouts of my life where I do deal with anxiety and depression, but it is not something that I constantly am having to work with. That's just me being transparent. I don't always have the feeling of these two mental health issues that are very common, which is kind of surprising that people still come at people who say that they're depressed, like, oh, just go outside and get some fresh air, because it is 2021. You know, people know now more about mental health than ever before, and they still think it's something that can be easily sloughed off by just going for a walk. And almost every study out there shows that that's not going to really help. If anything, it can further hinder the individual who is being open and being vulnerable with you and like expressing how they're feeling. You still will always have your diagnoses, though, and will always need to be medicated and careful not to let things get out of hand. And I understand that there's, you know, a lot of stigma comes around mental health, whether that be society just not knowing any better. Medications are something that people just don't understand, that for some mental health, it's necessary to have medication, and for other mental health disorders, it's not. I think people get really confused if they don't know enough about mental health. Have I tried DBT and CBT skills? A little bit. I don't really focus too much on any kind of skill set. I've been briefly informed, like through school, the different kinds of therapies and things like that, but I don't particularly, like, personally have any more solid skill set than general information, like general knowledge, what the benefits of them are, and things like that. Tina, don't worry about it. If you've got other stuff going on, don't feel you have to at anybody or anything like that. Good to see you, Miss Cassandra. I appreciate your compliment. I have a hair. Yeah, my hair is in this weird awkward phase, and it's kind of just all over the place because it's grown out so much. Yeah, and every kind of therapy is going to be different. Everything about mental health really is individual, because you can have two people with the same diagnosis and it manifests completely different in each individual. The reason they get the diagnosis is because fundamentally they're struggling with the same things, but it manifests different for every person. And medication assists some people and doesn't assist other people. Different medications work for some people that don't work for others. I can see it being very hard when people dismiss how others are feeling or when others are being vulnerable. It can be hard when you're giving out any kind of information to anyone, whether it's something online or it's something in real life, and you're disclosing some kind of really personal, sincere information about yourself. If they don't really hear what you're saying and they just passively hear what you're saying, it can really hurt that person's, not only their feelings, but it can have longer lasting effects depending on what it is that they're actually telling you. Psychotropic drugs and therapy save lives every day, and society needs to accept and appreciate that. I agree. I think society needs to stop judging people based off of mental health and understand that it's a part of some people's lives and try to educate themselves about it. I don't believe in allowing mental health to be an excuse for bad behavior, but if the diagnosis is severe enough, not allowing it to be an excuse, but allowing it to explain makes sense. To me, that's how my brain operates, knowing quite a bit about it, even more severe. I don't go into specific mental health diagnoses that I know quite a bit about, because I don't want anyone to ever feel that they have to tell their story or that they need to come to me and ask me questions about things because I know some more about certain diagnoses than others. But I know quite a bit about some pretty severe, more severe and life-altering diagnoses, because they're ones that I have been intrigued by, and I don't mean that negatively. I just have the the psychology of it has attracted me to understand. And not only understand just because of my general curiosity, but also understand because a lot of the jobs that I've worked deal with people in the community. And I have dealt with, worked with, and talked to people who have a range of mental health diagnoses. And through some of my work, I have been further educated and had the ability to learn what some diagnoses that aren't popularly talked about, how they affect people. And I still have always, even in talking with people who have some severe mental health and maybe engage in negative behavior, most of the time they are all self-aware and acknowledge that their mental health may explain why they were acting different or what led them to be more impulsive, but they don't take their mental health as a scapegoat. They don't let it be a scapegoat, if that makes sense. Hey, Gaming Granny, good to see you. Hey, Susan Elliott, thank you for joining. I'm trying not to miss too much of the chat, so I'm scrolling back up. I think I missed some stuff. You've dealt with depression a few times. You refuse to be ashamed. You can identify the symptoms and seek professional help early on. It gets better. And everybody deals with it differently. Some people are still ashamed to acknowledge or admit when they're struggling. And it's unfortunate that society, it really is a society thing. Like, society kind of makes it hard to admit, and it makes it even harder to get help, because yes, there is help for your county or community, there is help, but I will admit it is not always easily readily available. Sometimes you have to do the research to find the free clinics, to find the free services. And it's unfortunate that communities are set up on that kind of pillar. You have a hard time with family member taking their medicine. That's always a very touchy situation when there's mental health and medication helps and the individual is pushing back or not wanting to take it. And that's kind of like a family thing on how you want to go about dealing with that. Hey, Naughty Audie, good to see you. Hey, Mary. You tell people you take meds even though you don't. I think I'm doing something. I see it there. I mean, you do whatever is best for you. If that helps you, like, getting over the hump of telling people. Your fear of doing a channel like you want to talk about these is you have days that emotionally and mentally you're not strong. And the hate is real in YouTube streets. Yeah, it is. And that's kind of one of the things that I talk about whenever anyone says that they want to start a channel. I definitely encourage you. I will help you in any way that you may want help. If you want any kind of advice, I will give any of the advice I possibly can. But just being prepared to know that there's always going to be some people who are just not going to be nice, and having a way to work through it. If you know personally you're not going to be able to go through that, if you have an adult child or a spouse or a partner or a very close friend that you would be comfortable with allowing to go through your comment section before you did, I would suggest something like that, because I don't think people should feel that they can't create a YouTube channel just because there is mass amount of people who just want their opinion to be known, even if their opinion is extremely hurtful. Hey, Rubens. Yeah, the current state of the world is extremely depressing. Like, in general, like really looking at the news and everything, it's always something super tragic that's being aired on all of these like news outlets. It's really hard to, like, really, if we take a step back, and I'm not trying to say like my life is worse than anybody else's or anything like that, but I think right now, like the times that we're living in, yeah, we're blessed in a lot of ways, but there are so many like serious things that need worked on as a country. The only response should to someone struggling be, I'm here for you and want to support you. Tell me what I can do. Yeah, and it really is that is a very common blanketed statement to say, where you're not pushing any of your bias onto whoever is explaining things. You're letting them know that, you know, you are there for them, that just because they told you, you're not going to retract from them. It reassures that what they told you is okay and doesn't make them feel worse. And of course, if you have a more close personal relationship with that person, offering just to see where they're at, offering additional information, offering to go with them somewhere. Sometimes people just need that. Some people really need a solid support system if they don't have one already. Yeah, Christophan always brings up a good point. You could always try going on panel and dipping your toes in. That's a good suggestion. I know there's a lot of creators, myself included, who are opening up the possibility to having a person on panel. Hey, Terry, good to see you. I'm behind in the chat. I'm trying to catch up. You know, a study was done on an older generation, how they feel with anxiety. Sorry, it's an alarm that I have. Sadness and loneliness. Yeah, there's been quite a few studies with people, especially who are in older people who are in either assisted living facilities or are in like retirement settings. There's quite a few studies that I know have been conducted to kind of see how the older population deal with those things and how they feel about those situations. It would depend on what your resource is. Before I'm going to say go ahead and share it, just let me know what resource it is for. Your best friend's been struggling with severe postpartum. It's heartbreaking. Postpartum is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about or understand, because so many women struggle with it. Bye, Sierra. I hope you have a good evening. Yeah, the older generation, how they lose a sense of purpose. It can be really sad. With there are some populations that I am very hesitant to work with because I don't know if I'd be able to emotionally work with populations like a hospital setting. I don't think I could work in a hospital setting. A lot of that is some of my own trauma in hospitals that I don't think I've talked about on my channel before. But part of it is that I feel very uncomfortable in a hospital. And then the older generation, I don't think I could have the heart to work with that population. And I know there's different ways that I could. I just really don't think I'd be able to stomach it. You think YouTube can be vicious, and if you're vulnerable, I don't think you should create a channel. It can make matters worse than better. Depending on the content that is being made, I agree with that. If you're going, in my opinion about it is if you're going to make like a gaming channel and you're not really going to, if you have any physical things that you're uncomfortable with, you're not really forced to be on camera physically. And if it's just about games, people are probably just going to be nasty with you about how you game in a game, right? Like there's only so much people can actually say about a YouTuber who is only doing gaming stuff and not showing their face. Yeah, you may hear their voice because there's different ways to do that. Does that make sense? Does what I'm saying make sense? If you're going to go into like commentary or something like that, where you're providing your opinion and you're injecting your opinion and talking about things and how you think things could have been worked differently, then yes, you do have to have a thick skin. If you're going to be on camera, you have to have a thick skin. And if people come for your appearance, that you're not going to be affected by that. People are going to come for your opinion, not agreeing with you, things like that. There's always going to be some level of negativity, but I think a lot of it, depending on how bad it will get, is going to depend on what kind of content you decide to make. Yeah, I have seen a lot of times, unfortunately, where people they're not really educated on what diagnosis they're being given. or how to really cope with that. They're just like, oh, here, this is what you're diagnosed with. They may say, oh, here's some medications to take. And there's not a lot of communication happening. And that's when I suggest, if you feel that disconnect with your counselor, your therapist, your psychologist, whoever you're talking to, your psychiatrist, if you feel that disconnect, I do encourage people to make sure you're talking with someone that you're comfortable with, that you're comfortable with telling everything that you're struggling with, no matter how scary it is, because you have that comfortability with them. So you're likely to be more honest with them, and they're likely to seek, not that the other therapists weren't trying to help you, they probably were, but if you're not being 100% honest with them in every avenue, it can be the difference in certain medications that they may try and certain diagnosis. It is just like a hairpin difference sometimes between those things. So I would say, if you're never comfortable with somebody, or you get a diagnosis and you don't think it's right, advocate for yourself. I know that that can be hard, especially if you're actively struggling with your mental health, but advocate for yourself. Find a close friend or family member, and if they know what's going on, have them be your advocate if you can trust them to be that. If you can't be it for yourself, always have someone who has your best interests at heart. I am not a therapist. I have my bachelor's in social work, but I have no therapy degree whatsoever. I don't do any kind of therapy. Yeah, I saw your post for the Bloom, and that's fine. I'm sorry to hear that, Rebecca. I hope you're dealing with the grief okay. That's okay. Hey, April. Hey, Carrie. Good to see you guys. I'm a little bit behind in the chat. I'm trying to catch up and start skimming. Yeah, Brittany, and I'm sure you're especially, I think it's becoming a little bit easier for kids to be open with their parents or with their therapists about some of the things that they're struggling with. But that is an aspect that I did encounter quite a bit, is children not being forthcoming or not wanting to talk about some of the things that they were struggling with on a mental health thing, because they didn't feel safe and they didn't know how their parents would react. I hope, as society attempts to break down these stereotypes and attempts to make it more normal for these things, that parents are having more open discussions with their children about mental health, and if they do start to struggle with their mental health, that they let them know so that they can seek the appropriate help, and give the children, like, once they're of an appropriate age, resources that they can reach out to. Yeah, good therapists and psychiatrists, I believe, are vital, especially for some situations. It really can be the difference. keep advocating for yourself. You were misdiagnosed and nothing was helping. A new therapist actually see, and that I don't want to air out like people's particular diagnoses. But exactly, like having a good therapist who you are comfortable with to tell everything to, and who is going to be reciprocative, oh my gosh, I can't say the word, but is going to actually listen to you and hear what you're saying, know what you're saying is what you're experiencing, and take their professional knowledge and be able to pinpoint what it is. And sometimes you may get misdiagnosed a time or two, especially with more severe in diagnoses that have just a tad bit of differences that the littlest bit of information can make the difference of, is everything. And it can be everything for your future on how you cope with your mental health. I'm glad you have finally gotten some good, that you feel that you have a good hold on what your diagnoses are, and I hope you're doing well with coping through those. Therapy is becoming a lot more accessible. I think with COVID, it's kind of made it a little bit easier. I've seen some people kind of be more open about saying that they were more willing to go to therapy because, especially if it was like high anxiety people or patients who have extremely high anxiety or social anxiety, and going to the physical appointment was a lot of their struggle to get the help that they need. And I hope therapists are vetting their clients to see if that's a need that they have, because telehealth medicine, to be honest, has like always been, since internet, Zoom meetings and things like that have been accessible, telehealth has been accessible. And I know it's an added feature that facilities have to have. And I know a lot of facilities have incorporated it now that they weren't using it before. But I hope now they start to regularly offer that for clients who that benefits. And I understand there's some diagnoses that clients need to actually present for at times for certain medications. And those are conversations to have with your clients and with your patients, so they, and vice versa, that the patients have with their therapist or psychiatrist, so you're all on the same page and you can all build a good solid plan to make sure that your needs are met. Hey Linda, I hope you're having a good Monday evening. Having rough days since lockdown. Yeah, COVID was a really hard time for a lot of people, and even people who typically, I think people who maybe are usually like rather social, I think that they even struggled more during lockdowns than they anticipated they would. I think there's a lot of people who are pretty social, who seem to have some kind of independent qualities, but when you go into a long period of time like that without human contact and it being restricted, it's going to affect you to some degree. We are very social creatures. Even if you don't like to be social, even having that one conversation that you may have a week and that you bank on having that one conversation, not being able to have that can make all of the difference to somebody. You guys just started telemate with your patients. Hey, Nikki, good to see you. Yeah, it changed your practice. I think a lot of medical fields across the board have probably changed, and even other I think a lot of businesses in general have kind of been able to restructure how their businesses are operated now because of working through COVID and like learning new abilities to communicate with people. You use the beginning of lockdown to focus on yourself. That's awesome that you were able to really focus in on stuff. Some people don't have that ability. You didn't expect to struggle as much and you're an introvert. Yeah, I'm somebody who, I'm not extremely social. I can be, but for the most part, I'm not. And it kind of got to a point like I felt very cooped up in the house. Like I wanted to just go and like walk through somewhere and it kind of not be what it is. I can't really help with any kind of adoption cases, Linda. I'm not sure what kind of assistance you're looking for. But I'm not working in any kind of facility or any kind of agency to help with anything. I could give you information if you have general questions, but that's about it. Or if you need resources for someone who may be able to help you, I could help you in that area. Minnesota's going into lockdown and curfew. I've seen a couple of places say that they're going back into like some kind of lockdown. Maybe not as strict as it was before, but that there's being rules put into place because people are just acting like everything's gone back to normal since it's been a year. Your son's a band teacher. He's noticed teenagers are much more emotional now when they aren't perfect playing their part. He's had 13 kids have total meltdowns. I'm sure teachers and students have struggled quite a bit during the last year. It's been a roller coaster for both. You guys have been on strict lockdown here. Yeah. That has to be so challenging. Oh, you guys, that's lovely. You guys can tell I don't have cable, so I'm usually like the last to know whenever there's any like super tragic scenarios going on. Thank you, Nikki, for providing some further information. I didn't know all of that was going on. Some rioting and a police involved shooting. I agree that we give adults grace during times of stress. We need to do that for teens too, even more so in my opinion. I mean, think about it. They're still developing. Like their full thought process and everything like that isn't 100% developed. We can all think back from when we were in middle school and high school and all this, BS that you dealt with at those ages. It's like 20 times worse, I think now, to grow up in high school and stuff like that because of social media, because of how readily available everything is, how much they're online. Even if they're not spending a lot of their own time online, their friends online, like their activity online is probably looked at and questioned by their friends. It's just really interesting. It's really interesting. Your recent 3-day lockdown. I mean, I think this is something that's going to like continue, where places are going to continue to put down more strict laws and stuff around like lockdowns, whether that be COVID related or because there's shootings happening. It's just all kind of, it's heavy stuff. Yeah, I can get that perspective that we treat teens too much like adults sometimes. I'm sorry you guys are dealing with so much serious stuff out there. That's scary. You personally feel folks should not be. Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I mean, postpartum is I'm pretty sure it's in the DSM-5 now. It is considered mental health. I get where you're coming from, that you went through it, and I think it's pretty common. A lot of parents go through it, and I don't think it's been talked about enough, and that's why there's so much stigma around it. But postpartum depression is pretty normal, and I believe Raw Beauty Christie has kind of talked about her battles with postpartum depression and what that looks like for her. We all need to remember we don't need to apologize for being for being human and having human reactions and emotions, especially with trauma. Yeah, that seems to be lost on a lot of people, like worldwide, YouTube wide, everything. Like that saying, I wish I could just have it posted on my forehead, because I could not agree more with that. Yeah, I'm glad you were there for her as well, Cheryl. And I'm sure like when she comes around, she will probably be forever grateful that you took the time to listen. Seeking out, seeking each kid out to do something alone together, to check in each week has been so helpful for your kids. That's probably very good. I'm not sure if you're talking about from a parenting aspect or a teaching aspect. I think it's from a parenting aspect, but that's probably really good. And I'm sure it seems like if you're taking the time to do that, you probably have really healthy conversations with your children. Yeah, I honestly could not imagine being quarantined alone. I really couldn't. Like Skype calls, FaceTime, yeah, it's still conversation and it's still communication and it kind of seems real, but not really. I mean, it's been over a year now since I've seen my family, and it's actually been something that I've struggled with quite a bit recently with that and like feeling homesick from like where I'm from. It's been something that I've kind of been struggling with, but I don't talk about it a lot because I'm still working through it. So it's something that I still kind of get emotional about. And that's one thing I always try to do is not talk about things that I'm currently going through because I'm still going through it until I'm like kind of out of it or anything like that. I don't like openly talking about stuff because I don't mind showing a little bit of emotion to you guys here and there. But when it's something that I'm still actively kind of working through, when you tell people, it makes it more real. And so when I'm telling a whole bunch of people that I'm actively struggling with something, it makes it a lot harder. So I try to always have those conversations with you guys once I've kind of worked through it. So I couldn't imagine. Hey, Pippi, good to see you. I'm glad you found us and you feel that you are comfortable here. That it means a lot to me whenever subscribers and people reach out to me, whether it's a comment on a video or they reach out to me privately and we kind of have a chat. It means a lot. And in recent times, with me being a little bit more emotional in a live stream, I've had a lot of that happen and people saying how much me actually being emotional helped them and how they've been going through similar things or have gone through similar things was really moving for me. Your husband's teaching middle school art virtually from home, and you're able to help him as a retired art teacher. It's sad how shut down many of the kids are. Yeah, it has to be so hard. After all of this, and hopefully when things with school and things like that kind of go back to a normal in a couple of years when studies and stuff like that are done and questionnaires and research is done, it's going to be interesting to see the impact and what data is collected from how much COVID really did to the world. It's really nice that you guys like drop off stuff for friends. All right, guys, is there any other bits? I know this is always a hard open discussion to have and then like shut down because it's something that we can always talk about. And as I've always said, the few that were in last week's poll, I will probably continue to cycle through every once in a while. I will say next week there was some feedback about some people wanting to talk about more sensitive open discussion conversations, and I'm definitely open to that. So don't be alarmed. Next week's open discussion will come with a very large trigger warning, whatever ends up being the topic. But the few topics that you guys will have to pick from are going to be some pretty heavy, serious ones. So keep that in mind so you're not totally shocked when they go up. They're all going to be pretty heavy ones. But they are important, and the person in the commenter has a good point. I've talked about a couple of them here and there in the past, but we've kind of gained some new subscribers and people who are chatting in these who like to have this kind of conversation, so we can revisit some topics from before. The last thing that I'm going to do in closing this out is I am double checking to make sure that everybody who commented on the video to enter the giveaway is in the spreadsheet. The only thing I want to pose to you guys is if you want the winners to be like chosen live. I was thinking about offering to do that live, or is it better just to post it on like the social medias who won, because not everybody listed a way to contact them. I have a dog hair in my nose. Not everybody listed a way to contact them. And some who did mention Facebook. I don't have a Facebook. I believe that was my misspeak in the video. But I don't have Facebook to reach out to people. So I kind of figured a way to like circle back is to do it live rather than doing a weird, awkward video. So let me know. I'm probably going to post something up on my Twitter and probably the community page about it being live this week, probably not tomorrow, probably on Wednesday doing it live. That way people will know so that they can just reach out to me in whatever social media they have to reach out to me on. So I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, like I'm open to just posting everybody's username in a post if that works. I don't know. This is my first giveaway. I don't know how it's typically done. Don't know if it's usually announced at the end of the video or what, but I actually have to talk with whoever the 3 winners. I actually have to have a conversation with them to some degree about the items that they're winning, the cups that they're going to get, what they want put on the cups, etc. So I guess I'll just put it up on a poll and ask. You guys can vote if it should be live or if I should just post it somewhere. But not everybody who has Twitter has YouTube, and not everybody who has YouTube checks the community page. So I don't know. I think I might do it live and have the winners who win, pick the winners live through the random number generator, and then have those people give them like a day to reach out to me. Does that sound fair? Yeah, Beauty Demon, I didn't really clarify like what people needed to list down below, and people said, oh, just Twitter or something like that. So it got lost and not on anybody else's fault but my own, and I totally understand that and respect that. So I think I'm just going to do a live and then allow those people to reach out to me, whether it's email or on Instagram or whatever. So I will probably hold that live either Wednesday or Thursday. I want to go through tomorrow morning and triple check, make sure everybody is there. And then I'll do the live and we can pick the 3 winners. To enter the giveaway has ended. The giveaway ended on Friday. Entering the giveaway ended on Friday. I think I ran it for like a week and a day to comment on that video to be entered. I've gone back and have looked at all the comments that were posted on Friday or before, and they're in a spreadsheet. Carrie, if you'll reach out to me in either a DM or an email, all my stuff is in the description box. I'd be open to having you on panel to talk about that, or if you just want to talk in private, whatever is best for you, but feel free to reach out to me. I believe someone's sending me an email to give to somebody else. I will try to get to it before the end of the night, but I can't promise. I have to go grocery shopping when I get this live wrapped up, and then I have to cook dinner. So if I don't get the transmission over today, I will tomorrow. All righty. So I appreciate everybody who's been here. I am going to go ahead and hop off. Thank you for everybody who has joined. It's been a good conversation. I will try my best to remember on Friday to actually post the poll on Friday for next week. But keep an eye out on uploads. I got my nails done today. I finally did them. So that video should go up tomorrow afternoon. I just have to finish editing it. So any of you guys who are interested in that, that will be up tomorrow. And I might do a random Q&A live tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see how tomorrow goes. But I appreciate you all. I hope you all have a good day, evening, or night, wherever you are. And until next time, bye, guys.